We all know the story of the Watchers, the 200 fallen angels who descended to Mount Hermon and created a race of hybrid monsters called the Nephilim. But what happened next? The Book of Enoch tells us the story from the perspective of the righteous. But in 1947, deep in the caves of Qumran, Bedouin shepherds found a different scroll. It was crumbling and fragmented, but when scholars pieced it together, they realized they were holding the sequel, and it is called the Book of Giants. And unlike the Bible, this book doesn't focus on Noah or God. It tells the story from the perspective of the monsters themselves. It reveals that before the flood washed them away, the giants didn't just fight, they were terrified. The Bible briefly mentions the Nephilim as mighty men of old, men of renown. We often imagine them as mindless brutes. The Book of Giants changes everything. It describes them as intelligent, emotional, and organized. They had kings, they had councils. They ruled the ancient world with an iron fist. But the text reveals a crack in their armor. These half-angel, half-human hybrids began to suffer from a supernatural affliction, nightmares. The Watchers, their fathers, couldn't stop it. The universe itself was starting to scream at them. They realized that the Great Judgment wasn't just a rumor. It was coming for them. The text focuses on two brother giants, Ohya and Hahya. They were the sons of the leader of the Watchers, Shemihaza. One night Hahya awoke screaming. He told the council of giants about a vision. He saw a massive stone tablet. On it were written the names of everyone on earth. Then he saw a great angel descend with a knife. The angel scraped the tablet, erasing every single name, except for one small group at the end. Then the tablet was submerged in water. It was the first prophecy of Noah's flood. But Hahya didn't understand it. He thought it was just a bad dream. He didn't realize he had just watched his own extinction. This is where the text gets shocking. It lists the names of the giants present at the council. We expect random names, but the scroll drops a bombshell. One of the giants is named Gilgamesh. This connects the Bible directly to ancient Sumerian history. The Epic of Gilgamesh describes a king who was 2/3 God and 1/3 man, a perfect description of a Nephilim. The Book of Giants suggests that the heroes of mythology, Hercules, Gilgamesh, the Titans, weren't myths. They were the very real, very dangerous offspring of the Watchers. And they were about to ask Enoch for help. The first dream was about water. The second dream was about fire. Another giant named Ohya stood up before the council. He was trembling. He described a vision of a lush, beautiful garden representing the world. It was filled with massive trees, the giants. But then gardeners' angels descended. They didn't come to water the plants. They came to burn them. Ohya watched as the gardeners threw fire and water upon the earth, incinerating every tree except for one single shoot with 3 branches, representing Noah and his 3 sons. The message was clear. The giants weren't going to rule the earth forever. They were being weeded out. Panic set in. The Council of Giants realized they couldn't fight this enemy with swords. They needed information. They decided to send a messenger to the one man who had direct contact with God, Enoch. But Enoch wasn't easy to find. He had been taken by God to dwell in paradise at the ends of the earth. The giants selected one of their own, a giant named Mahway, to undertake the dangerous mission. This wasn't just a hike. The text implies a journey that crossed the boundaries of the known world. Mahway was tasked to find the scribe of righteousness and beg for an interpretation of the nightmares. How did Mahway get there? The text gives a description that sounds suspiciously like flight. It says Mahway rose up into the air like strong winds and flew with his hands like eagles. He crossed the desolate lands and the great desert to reach the location of Enoch. Ancient astronaut theorists look at this and see technology. Biblical scholars see supernatural power. But either way, the image is striking. A massive, hybrid monster flying across the atmosphere, desperate to find a human being who could save him. He eventually landed at the mountain of the east. Mahway finally found Enoch. The meeting is one of the most ironic moments in ancient literature. Usually humans are afraid of giants, but here the giant bowed down before the human. Mahway presented a tablet of petition. It was a legal document signed by all the giants and the Watchers. They weren't asking for power anymore. They were begging for mercy. Mahway asked, "Will we be forgiven? Will our lives be spared?" The mighty men of renown who ate humans and destroyed the earth were now reduced to begging for a plea deal. Enoch took the tablet and promised to ask God for an answer. Mahway flew back to the assembly of giants. They were waiting, terrified, hoping for a pardon. Enoch's reply was devastating. He handed them a tablet that essentially said, "Request denied." The message from God was brutal. He said, "Because you are spirit born of flesh, you should have petitioned on behalf of men, not men on your behalf." The logic was cold. They were supposed to be the superior beings, yet they were begging a human for help. God declared that because they had corrupted the earth and feasted on blood, there would be no peace, no forgiveness, and no escape. The nightmares were true. The eraser was coming. But God didn't just wait for the flood to kill them. He inflicted a psychological punishment first. The text describes a curse sent upon the giants, mutual destruction. God sent a spirit of confusion amongst them. Suddenly, the disciplined armies of the Nephilim turned on each other. Brothers looked at brothers and saw enemies. Before the first drop of rain fell, a massive civil war erupted across the ancient world. The giants began to slaughter one another in a frenzy of rage. The Book of Giants suggests that the vast majority of them died by their own swords, fulfilling the prophecy that they would erase themselves. While the giants were fighting on the ground, the Watchers, their fathers, watched in horror. They tried to intervene, but they were blocked. God dispatched the 4 high archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel. They didn't come to preach, they came to arrest. The text describes a scene of cosmic warfare. The archangels descended and physically bound the leaders of the Watchers. They didn't kill them, spirits cannot die. Instead, they dragged them to a place of darkness in the desert, Dudael, and buried them under jagged rocks to await the final judgment. Back at the council, the giant Ohya read the final lines of Enoch's message. It wasn't just about war, it was about the water. Enoch warned that a great destruction of water would come to wash away the blood they had spilled. The giants realized that even if they survived the civil war, the environment itself was turning against them. The Book of Giants captures their despair. These were beings who thought they were gods, realizing for the first time that they were just biology. And they were about to be recycled. Then the sky broke open. The Book of Giants fragments end right before the catastrophe, but we know what happened next. The prophecy of the tablet in water came true. The flood wasn't just rain. It was a cleansing agent. It was designed to wipe out the genetic corruption of the Watchers. The mighty cities of the giants, their iron empire, and their hybrid technology were crushed under miles of water. The physical bodies of Ohya, Hahya, and Gilgamesh were drowned. The men of renown became mud. But here is the most disturbing part of the Enochian texts. When a human dies, their soul goes to rest. But when a Nephilim dies, something else happens. Because they were half spirit angel and half flesh human, their spirits were trapped. Enoch 15:8 explains, "Now the giants who are produced from the spirits and flesh shall be called evil spirits upon the earth. The flood destroyed their bodies, but it released their souls. The demons we fear today, the invisible entities that haunt, possess, and torment humans, are actually the disembodied spirits of the dead giants. They are still here, angry, invisible, and waiting for the judgment of their fathers." The physical book may have been lost for thousands of years, but the memory survived. The name Gilgamesh in the Book of Giants proves that the ancient world didn't forget them. They just turned them into gods. The Greeks called them Titans. The Sumerians called them Anunnaki. The Bible called them Nephilim. They are all different names for the same traumatic event in human history, the time when gods walked among us and nearly drove humanity to extinction. The Book of Giants was buried in a cave for 2,000 years. Now that it is open, we have to ask, why did it resurface now? Is it just a piece of history? Or is it a reminder that the days of Noah are returning? The bodies of the giants are gone, but their spirits and perhaps their technology might still be waiting in the dark. If you want to explore more forbidden history from the Dead Sea Scrolls, click the subscribe button. And tell me in the comments, do you think the heroes of ancient mythology were actually the monsters of the Bible? The archives are open.